All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us live. If you're here, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is. If you're watching the recording, whether on YouTube or Facebook, this is My Empowered Political Life, April 8th, 2025. And today we're going to go through some deportation headlines. So much is happening right now. So much is happening so fast. And on this deportation front, there's a lot happening. I'm going to do a video in the near future about how actually I think we should probably stop using the word deportations. A lot of what we're seeing are not actually deportations in the legal sense, but rather something we call legally renditions. You may remember the term rendition back from the so-called War on Terror. All right. So yesterday, we had the Supreme Court take up one of the cases involving the Venezuelan migrants, and there was a 5-4 SCOTUS decision. Interestingly, it breaks down that all the 5 men were in the majority, and the 4 women dissented. This is being a new pattern that we're seeing in a number of SCOTUS decisions with the 5 men in the majority and the 4 women dissenting. Or sometimes if Amy Coney Barrett joins the majority, then often it's John Roberts who joins the dissenters. But this 5-4 male-female split in the court is becoming more common. It's a trend I'm going to be watching. I'm not entirely sure what to make of it yet, but it's interesting and it's becoming a pattern. So we will be watching that as this goes forward. So in yesterday's 5-4 SCOTUS decisions, the majority, the 5, said the deportations of the Venezuelan migrants can continue for now. Now, importantly, they decided this on a forum issue. In the law, forum is where you file the case. And there's always a question about, did you file the case in the right forum, in the right jurisdiction, in the right district? And this case had been winding its way through the DC district and circuit courts. The majority of the Supreme Court yesterday said DC is the wrong forum. They believe the case should be filed in Texas because that's where these Venezuelan migrants, at least the ones who have not yet been sent to El Salvador, this is where they are being detained pending deportation. Excuse me. So they think Texas is the right forum. So the case is going to have to be refiled there. We had a per curiam opinion for the majority. Per curiam is just the fancy legal word for nobody on the majority wanted to sign the opinion. So it was just done on behalf of the majority, and there's no one person who is credited with writing the opinion. So from the majority opinion, today's order and per curiam affirms that the detainees subject to removal orders under the AEA, the Alien Enemies Act, are entitled to notice and an opportunity to challenge their removal. So this is the good news coming out of the Supreme Court decision yesterday. They essentially said that the case in DC cannot continue and those orders are not valid, and the case has to be refiled in Texas. But the good news is they made clear that there is due process and that they are watching the administration, and they have taken note that so far the administration has not provided due process to these detainees. So they made clear that you have to get notice of the allegations against you, notice of the deportation, and an opportunity to challenge it before you are deported. So the court is saying there has to be some minimal due process, and I will link to our due process video. Justice Kavanaugh wrote a separate concurrence. He said, importantly, as the court stresses, the court's disagreement with the dissenters is not over whether the detainees receive judicial review of their transfers. All 9 members of the court agree that judicial review is available. The only question is where that judicial review should occur. So again, Justice Kavanaugh is stressing that the court is unanimous in that detainees now must receive due process before they are sent off to what is basically a torture dungeon in El Salvador. People do get due process whether or not they're here legally. So that on that point, the court was unanimous. I wanted to quote a little bit from Justice Sotomayor's dissent. Again, she wrote the dissent on behalf of all of the female justices on the court. What if the government later determines that it sent one of these detainees to CECOT in error? Now, she's talking here about the Abrego Garcia case, obviously. Or a court eventually decides that the president lacked authority under the Alien Enemies Act to declare that Trinidad, is perpetrating or attempting an invasion against the territory of the United States. The government takes the position that even when it makes a mistake, it cannot retrieve individuals from the Salvadorian prisons to which it has sent them. The implication of the government's position is that not only non citizens, but also United States citizens could be taken off the streets, forced onto planes, and confined to foreign prisons with no opportunity for redress if judicial review is denied unlawfully before removal. She's stressing here that this is why all 9 justices agree there has to be review, there has to be due process before removal from the country, because once you're removed, the government is claiming it can never get you back, which means at that point, it doesn't matter whether or not you're here legally, doesn't matter whether you're a citizen, doesn't matter whether you're a criminal. Again, from Justice Sotomayor, she caps it off with this. History is no stranger to such lawless regimes, but this nation's system of laws is designed to prevent, not enable their rise. Now, I want to do some updates on a handful of folks who've been caught up in this immigration fiasco here. We have covered the Abrego Garcia case extensively. There's also a lot you can look up about him online. Remember, he is an innocent man who was here legally in the United States, bothering nobody, holding down a job, raising his family. He was accosted by masked men in front of his little son and sent to this gulag in El Salvador. Initially, the court order was that he should be returned by midnight last night. I'm recording this Tuesday morning here. He was supposed to be returned by midnight last night, Monday. The Supreme Court yesterday, just hours before that deadline, put a temporary hold on that order so they consider the case. I'm not too concerned about this right now. We don't know where this is going. It does appear to just be a temporary hold. They wanted more than a few hours to come up with a decision, so they put a temporary hold. I think we're going to see something from them in the next day or two on this. Rebecca Burke, she was a British tourist. Well, she's still British, I assume. She was backpacking around the Western United States, staying at people's homes in return for doing odd jobs around the house. Apparently, she's done this before in lots of countries. She was, again, in the Western United States, and she tried to enter Canada near Vancouver in the Pacific Northwest. When she tried to enter Canada, the Canadian officials told her she did not have the proper visa to enter Canada. She had the incorrect visa. So they turned her around to the US until she could get the right visa, and then she could come back and go to Canada. She decided that was going to be too much trouble. She was in Seattle at that point when they turned her around, so she got a plane ticket to head back to the UK. She said, "Forget it. It's too much trouble. I'm just going to go back to the UK for now." She even had her plane ticket. She was at the airport. She was about to go home. ICE detained her. She was told she also didn't have the right visa to be in the United States. Apparently, ICE determined that because she was doing odd jobs at people's houses in return for staying there while she backpacked, that she was supposed to have a work visa instead of a student visa. So ICE told her she did not have the correct visa to be in the United States. Now you're thinking, no problem. You want her to leave. She's about to get on a plane to leave. Maybe just let her get on the plane to leave. That's the whole point. You don't have the right visa, go home. Well, she's literally about to go home. But instead of just allowing her to get on the plane, she was arrested and spent 19 days in ICE detention, during which she could not talk to a lawyer. She was able to make one phone call to her family, who had to go to trouble to make sure she had money in her prisoner account in the detention so that she could buy food. And she spent 19 days languishing in ICE detention before they finally let her get on a plane to go home. Now, why couldn't they just let her get on the plane in the first place? I don't know. There's no good answer to that. But this is the sort of thing that is now happening. Andry Romero, this is a young man who escaped Venezuela. He's gay, he's a makeup artist, and that doesn't go down very well in Venezuela. He was being persecuted, so he escaped Venezuela. He has since been living peacefully in the United States as a makeup artist. He has no criminal history. He's bothered nobody. ICE sent him to CICOT, that brutal El Salvadorian prison, like many of the others, with no due process, no hearing, no allegation of any crime. A gay makeup artist from Venezuela living here peacefully is now in that brutal El Salvadorian prison. He's just been shipped off. He has effectively disappeared. Nobody knows how to contact. Well, you can't contact him, and there appears to be no way to get him back. Again, this is the sort of thing that's happening right now. So, um, the government, when asked why they sent him off, they said because he was in a gang. He was in MS-13, which is now their answer to everything. He's in Tren de Aragua. He's in MS-13. He's a gang member. That's their answer to everything right now. Their evidence that he was in a gang was his tattoos. Now he has two tattoos, as it turns out. The government even gave us pictures that they took of the tattoos. One says mom and one says dad. So he had tattoos honoring his parents. And because he had a mom tattoo and a dad tattoo, the government says he was in a gang and therefore he was a danger. And they couldn't wait. They couldn't have due process. They had to send him off to El Salvador right now. So 60 Minutes just did an extensive piece on this. You may want to watch it. Look up the 60-minute piece on Andry Romero. It's heartbreaking to say the least. So 60 Minutes and CBS, they pressed the government saying, okay, thanks for showing us the tattoos, but they say mom and dad. That's got nothing to do with the gang. And so when pressed, the government said, well, that's not the only evidence we had. We also looked through his social media history and it had lots of gang related content. So this being 60 Minutes, you can imagine what they did. They searched 10 years of his social media history, and of course, they found no gang related content. And again, they said to the government, where's the gang related content? And the government just keeps claiming they have it. This is the pattern in these cases. They nab people with no due process. They ship them off to a brutal El Salvadorian prison, which is considered to be one of the worst places in the Western Hemisphere. And then after the fact, they claim you're in a gang. And when asked for evidence, they just keep saying they have evidence, but they never provide it. They don't provide it in court. They don't provide it in public. They just keep saying, don't worry, we know these people are criminals. We know they're gang members, without giving us any evidence whatsoever. I'm not sure why we should believe any of that. Again, thank you. Please smash that like button, subscribe, share this with your friends. If you believe in what you're doing, if you think more people should see it, please help us, just do a few couple simple things to help us get the word out. We really appreciate it. We're going to do a quick doors and corners today, like a detective entering a dangerous room. We're going to look behind the doors and around the corners to see what's coming. Again, I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. You have to stop thinking this can't happen to you. People are thinking, well, I'm here legally. I'm a citizen. It can't happen. It can happen to you. The government's position in all of these cases is that with no evidence, masked men can accost you off the street and ship you off to El Salvador. And once there, you're gone. Nothing can be done. That is literally the position the government is taking in these court cases. There's no reason it can't happen to you. From Justice Sotomayor, I want to repeat what she said. The implication of the government's position is that not only non-citizens, but also United States citizens could be taken off the streets, forced onto planes, and confined to foreign prisons with no opportunity for redress if judicial review is denied unlawfully before removal. Thankfully, again, the good news out of the Supreme Court decision yesterday is that they unanimously held that people must be given notice of deportation and an opportunity to challenge it. This, and especially Justice Kavanaugh's concurrence, where the Supreme Court saying, hey, government, we are watching. We do still believe in due process. So be careful what you do. So that's the good news to come out of it. Thanks so much, everyone. I will see you all.